So Hard Knocks yesterday was pretty cool. I don't know if it was as good as episode one in terms of just an entertainment standpoint, but it was legit. I really liked the Joey Porter Jr. Tomlin sequence where Tomlin was talking to Porter during practice and he was saying, "Hey man, I honestly think you care more about the penalties and you harp on that more than I do, and I'm the head coach." And Porter's like, "Hey, I just want to be great." And then Tomlin responded to that by saying, "You are going to be great. Like, don't worry about that right now. You're not going to be great today, though. Just worry about getting better today because that's all we can do. You'll get there, but just focus on the day to day. Just get better today. Keep grinding, keep working, keep practicing." And I think it was handled very well by Tomlin. I think Tomlin looked at the situation, saw that Porter over the last couple games, particularly that Cincy game, because you got to think when this is being recorded, this is in between the Cincy game being done and then us starting the Browns game, the build up, the preview to that Browns game. So we're in the middle of that week where JPJ is practicing and everything. And I think it'd be safe to assume your confidence could be a little bit shot. Or you could be questioning some things about your play, right? And your approach. But Tomlin, I think he handled it well. He took the pressure off of Porter. It's like, dude, don't worry about all that. I'm not worried about the penalties. I actually think you play pretty good because in the press conference after the Bengals game, he said, listen, if you're going up against a Shaq, you're going to use your fouls. So for us in the secondary going up against Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, yeah, there's going to be some penalties. And honestly, I think the refs overflagged JPJ in that game. It was a total of 6 penalties. Probably should have only been like 3 or 4. So it wasn't the end of the world. We were able to keep a Jamar Chase and T. Higgins in check for the most part outside of those last 2 drives. Those were borderline garbage time drives, but the Bengals did get back in the game and make it a one-score game, made it interesting. But I liked how Tomlin coached them up here. Took the pressure off JPJ, but also let them know that, bro, we'll get there. Like, don't worry about that right now. Like, I'm not worried about that. Don't worry about the penalties. The fans, the media, all them might. But I'm the head coach. I think you're playing good. I think you're on the right track. And then I like how it transitioned too, because there was a lot of focus on the documentary with JPJ because we were going up against Cleveland. They highlighted his dad being the former Pittsburgh Steelers legend that he was, and the history that he had against not only the Cleveland Browns, but other AFC North rivals, and how he would chirp with them, try to get in their heads before the game, meet other players at the 50-yard line, and fight dudes. Like, they showed the highlight of Joey Porter Jr. fighting like 2 or 3 Cleveland Browns before the game. So I really liked how they highlighted that. And then the fact, too, that Joey Porter Sr. said that he feels like he can't eat food, can't go out to eat at Cleveland, at Cincy, or in Baltimore because he's worried that they're going to do something janky with his food. I don't blame him. I definitely don't blame him at all for that. But I laughed out loud when he mentioned that. And then outside of the beginning, the intro where they said the Steelers got the logo from a company in Cleveland called Republic Steel. That was a shock. I had no clue on that. I got to do a little bit more research and delve into exactly why all that happened. But yeah, apparently the Steelers, we were originally the Pittsburgh Pirates. We stole our baseball team's name whenever our football franchise started back in 1933. And we changed it to the Steelers. And I guess it was because of this company in Cleveland that said that we should use their logo. We should steal their branding. So that was pretty crazy. Outside of all that, though, a lot of the documentary was pretty much what we witnessed on Sunday, us beating the Browns. I don't think there was any crazy new insight that came from yesterday's AFC North Hard Knocks. But I thought it was good still. I think episode 1 was a little bit better, though. Maybe because it was the first one. Typically, that's what happens with sequels, right? A lot of these movie sequels out there. Jurassic Park 1, classic. Jurassic Park 2, not as good. Although I did like Jurassic Park 2. But I think it's kind of the same thing with this Hard Knocks. First AFC North Hard Knocks. First time the Steelers are on Hard Knocks. We got some eye-opening stuff. We got some things that really we don't get to witness from a typical fan's perspective. But then this time around, Nothing too crazy, but I still liked certain segments, certain parts of it, and that's what I wanted to highlight to start off today's show. We got Dirty Rags in the building. Says, what it do, Steeler crew? What's good, bro? Thanks for stopping through. Now, before I get to this Steelers-Eagles preview, got a couple Steelers updates I wanted to go over. First, we got to talk George Pickens and what his timeline for return is going to be. So Mike Tomlin said in his Tuesday press conference that Pickens is going to be doubtful to play Sunday versus the Eagles, which is understandable. I don't think that's really much of a surprise at all. But in my opinion, just the fact that he's listing Pickens as doubtful is a little bit. It's not a surprise that Pickens is unlikely to play, but I actually am surprised that Tomlin at least categorized him as somewhat likely to play. There's some sort of percent chance that Pickens can play, because Jerry Dulac in his Pittsburgh Post-Gazette transcript, big-time Steelers reporter, plugged in pretty well. He says that Pickens is flat out right not playing this week, and it's very iffy even for Baltimore too, especially with the one less day. We do play Baltimore on Saturday the following week. But I think Tomlin, if you listened to the interview and just kind of heard the context of his answer, he felt like he was pressed for some sort of designation for Pickens. So he just said doubtful. And I think it's smart from a gamesmanship standpoint to leave the door open a little bit for Pickens. So the Eagles have to prep for him, maybe spend some unnecessary time prepping for him, even though the Steelers deep down in their hearts, Tomlin deep down in his heart, knows that Pickens isn't going to play. So from a gamesmanship standpoint, I'm fine with Tomlin doing that, but I'm also completely fine with Pickens just not playing, period, this week. And if he's going to be iffy for the Ravens game, I say set him out for that one too. So I did a little bit of research on hamstring injuries, what the typical timeline is, and Pickens is categorized as a grade 2. So Steelers Depot had a pretty good article that I just read, and someone did research on, I think it was like 48 players and hamstring injuries, and they averaged out their timeline for return. I think it was all different type of grades. And on average, the return time would be they missed like 10 or 11 practices, and they missed 2.6 games. So Pickens, with his hamstring injury being a grade 2, which is the median of the 3 grades of hamstring injuries. There's grade 1, there's grade 2, and there's grade 3. So let's just say Pickens has the average hamstring injury. And if you look at what the average is for hamstring injuries for this sample set, it's 2.6 weeks. So 2.5 weeks. Either you come back that second week or you come back the third week, and you miss, 10, 11 practices, which is exactly, if you go off Jerry Dulac's answer right here, he's not playing this week, and it's very iffy for Baltimore. That'll be 2.5 weeks. So he's definitely out for 2 weeks. And then that third week, he's iffy. He's 50-50. But I say, just if he's going to be iffy, if he's going to be on the fence, just sit him out completely, because as I mentioned in last video after the game, it's much more important that we have Pickens healthy for this final stretch of the season and for the playoffs than putting him out there and risking furthering the hamstring injury and having him be hurt for the last couple games or for playoff games. It's just not worth it at all. Whatever seeding we're looking after, or the fact that we're trying to win this division, it's not as important as Pickens being healthy. If you have that type of option, sometimes, you just go out there and you play football and you get hurt. But we have the option. We have this information on Pickens that his hamstring is a grade 2. So what do? I feel like there's no way you could look at yourself and say this is a smart move to play him out there if he's 50-50 or if he's on the fence, given that we are a lock for the playoffs. It's different if it was last season, we're 7-7. We need every one of these last games to get in, but we're going to be a lock for the playoffs. Better to have Pickens healthy. We've been cautious with all these injuries, from Russ to Herbig to Highsmith, the whole season. Let's not stray away from that strategy all of a sudden now with a George Pickens. So that's kind of the timeline. He's definitely out this week, even though Tomlin opened the door a little bit by listing him as doubtful. Pickens is going to be out this week. And then I say he should sit out Baltimore week 2, but we'll have to wait and see on that.